faith walk? Remember a time when you were having a hard time in your life, but you were completely at peace? I mean, you trusted that however things turned out, everything was going to be okay because you knew that God was in control. Remember a time when you didn't feel this way? I've had difficult times, and sometimes I had inner peace, and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I trusted God, and sometimes I didn't. And that's the truth about our faith journey. We don't always have the same high level of trust in our Lord and Savior. There are times of great intimacy in our faith. There are times of great intimacy, and we want those times to never end. We want to feel like our faith is fresh and new and front and center. But those times don't usually last forever, and when we have them, it is because of grace, my friends. It's not because of anything we're extra holy. Because of grace. Likewise, when we feel distant from God, or we wonder if God has forgotten us, or we can't seem to find any real enjoyment in prayer and church, believe it or not, those are times of grace as well. It's at those times when our faith muscles and our hope muscles are being developed and strengthened. It's a bit like a really good workout. I've checked this out with trainers, and they verify that it's true. In a good workout, the goal is to make small tears in your muscles so that when they heal, they are stronger. That's what the desert times in our lives are like. Workouts, faith workouts, can create a muscular faith and hope. So, this morning, whether you are enjoying the great grace of God's consoling presence, or whether you are in the desert, you don't feel God's presence, you dragged your to church this morning, know that either way, you are journeying towards the heart of God. If you've ever walked a labyrinth, you may have had a physical experience of this. In most labyrinths, the path, in all labyrinths actually, the path takes you towards the center, then far from the center, and then towards the center, and then far. And in the final round, just before you enter the center, the path takes you the furthest yet, all the way out to the perimeter, and around, and then into the center. So however close you are, or far away you are in actuality not lost, but getting ever closer to the center, to the very heart of God. This was apparently Mother Teresa's experience. Much of her life apparently took place in an interior spiritual desert, without any felt sense of God's presence. But look at her life. Look at her life. She lived and served and loved the poor in utter faith and abandonment to God. That is walking the path of faith. Now, Abram is known as an icon of faith. Paul calls him one of our icons, our heroes of faith. He was a prosperous man back in Ur. He was a prosperous man, a wealthy man, an old man, established. When God asked him to pull up stakes and leave for an unknown place, and he did. He did. He gathered up his family and as much of his wealth as he could take, and he followed. And he talked, and they regularly had this great closeness, very intimate relationship. The word of the Lord came to Abram. He said, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, and your reward shall be very great." And yet he walked mostly in darkness, not knowing where God was taking him or why. And in the reading that we heard this morning, he finally argues back. "Okay," he says, "okay, I've followed you. I've done everything you asked, but I don't get it. You promised an heir, and I don't have an heir other than my slave, and I'm getting ready to die. So God, what's going on?" I love our Jewish brothers and sisters. I mean, they have a way of praying that just like, they argue with God. It's okay, you can argue. It's what you do with somebody you're really close to, right? Abram argues, and in return, God gives him an astronomy lesson. So let's look at the stars. That's going to be the number of your offspring. It's a promise that's so over the top. It's of such abundance, that it's overwhelming. And Abram had asked to know, and now instead of keeping him in the dark, God revealed even more to him. More that he probably doesn't actually want to know. Because in the portions of the readings that have been left out, you'll notice that verses 12 to 17 are not in the lectionary. In those verses, God reveals to Abram what's going to happen to these offspring. And I'm guessing it was far more than Abram would have ever wanted to know. It was knowledge that would leave him wounded for the rest of his life. Here are the verses. As the sun was going down, a deep silence fell upon Abram, and a deep and terrifying darkness descended upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, "Know this for certain, that your offspring shall be aliens in a land that is not theirs, and shall be slaves there, and they shall be oppressed for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. In other words, they shall be free. As for you yourself, you shall go to your ancestors in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. And they, your descendants, after this period of enslavement, shall come back here in the 4th generation." Be careful what you ask for. As a German child, Corrie ten Boom's parents took in Jews and hid them during the Holocaust. Corrie ten Boom and her parents were eventually arrested and sent to Buchenwald. Out of her entire family, only Corrie came out alive. When they were boarding the train that would take them to Buchenwald, Corrie asked her father why God would allow something like this to happen when they were good people and they had only done good on God's behalf. Corrie wrote that her father set down a very heavy suitcase that he was carrying and told her to pick it up. Corrie, being a very young girl, couldn't lift it. That, her father said, that is like the knowledge that God has and that we do not. There are things that are simply too heavy, too much for us to bear, and so God carries them. Our job is simply to continue walking alongside of Him and trust. Now, I read that story as a high school student, and that story has stayed with me all these years. I highly recommend Corrie ten Boom's autobiography. Sometimes God lets us in on the big picture, as He did Abram, and sometimes He doesn't, as in most of the time. And like Corrie's wise father told her, and as the psalmist, our Psalm 27 this morning verifies, and as countless people of faith throughout the centuries have tested out and verified, our job is to wait patiently and trust. That doesn't rule out complaining and arguing, thank goodness. I mean, when you're very close to someone, do you always take their word for it? I don't think so. You ask, as Abram did. You plead, as the psalmist did. Hearken to my voice, O Lord, when I call. Have mercy on me and answer me. You speak in my heart and say, seek my face. Your face, Lord, will I seek. Just don't hide your face from me. We began the Lent series this past Wednesday and explored this craziness of following Jesus. This journey which encourages us to give rather than to hoard, to forgive rather than to take revenge or hold grudges, to abide in God rather than trying to grab the best views for ourselves, to care rather than to numb ourselves with any number of addictions. And we all have the greatest of intentions, right? We all have the greatest of intentions to follow Jesus into this crazy Christian life, to know Christ, to make more room for God, to be an excellent parent, to love more deeply, less conditionally. But as we travel along, those intentions get bruised and forgotten under the pressures of life, under those desert places, right? Those places where it just feels hard, too hard. This happens with the psalmist. It has certainly happened with Abram. The psalm goes from passionate confidence in the Lord, great intention to trust no matter what, and then in the space of one verse, he's obviously run into a whole lot of trouble. He's lost his way. Can't really find God. He's forgotten his original intention to just trust. So what does he do? What does he do? What he doesn't do is despair. He turns and asks for help. Show me your way, O Lord, deliver me. He acts his way, he talks his way, he prays his way into faith and trust. Right? We act our way, we pray our way, we talk our way into faith and trust. This time, the second time around in the psalm, he does so without the providence and the gung-ho confidence that he had at the beginning of the psalm. This time he speaks with much greater simplicity and wisdom. He says, "O tarry and wait. Wait for the Lord's pleasure. Be strong and he shall comfort your heart. Wait patiently for the Lord." Clearly the word, right, for today is trust, faith, waiting patiently, holding on, stand fast. So I want to say a word now, a particular word to those who have embarked with me on this 3-month journey of centering prayer. Christian meditation practice for 3 months. There are times, now just to be really, just a short thing, this is basically we're sitting 20 minutes once a day with a returning, the intention is to just sit and abide in God. Let God be God for 20 minutes. Doesn't need us interfering. Doesn't need our to-do list, all of that. We're sitting for 20 minutes abiding in God. Now there's a little bit more to it. If you're interested, come on the 28th or ask me. But for those of you who have already embarked on that, sometimes there are times, right, when that 20 minutes just flies by. And you come out of that feeling utterly refreshed when the time is over. There are other times when that 20 minutes feels like 24 hours. And you wonder if your timer is broken. The point is to stick with the intention to entrust this time to God, to abide in him, regardless of personal experience. This is the daily exercising of this trust and faith muscles I'm talking about. And there's no greater way to get there. There's no faster way than to deliberately and intentionally every day give time to God, to simply abide in him. So my word for us this morning, for all of us, is to practice faith. Exercise trust. Hold fast. My dear teacher, John Coolidge's favorite word in Greek was hypomone. He called it hypomone, means standing firm. And it occurs all through Scripture. There's the words, be not afraid, and stand firm. He called it waiting for the cavalry, the army, you're standing alone, he was a military guy, okay? The forces are arrayed against you. It looks like you're going down. He says, hold fast, hypomone, hold firm, because the cavalry is going to arrive. That's the word for it, right? The guys on horses going to come to your rescue. It happens to be the cavalry also, the cross of Christ. So this morning, if you are a place in your journey where it's easy for you to trust and you feel God's presence close by, say thank you, thank you, thank you. Because it is the grace of God. If this morning you are in a place in your journey where it's not so easy to trust, where you're a little bit with Abram on this one, questioning, and with the psalmist, pleading, where is your face, O God? I don't see it, I don't feel it. Say thank you too. But add this other little prayer, say help me. Help me. Help me to stand firm. And as your faith muscles and your hope muscles are being torn, you, my friends, you are being made stronger. And believe me, the best course, the safest course, is just to do what our scriptures say, to trust and to wait patiently, even and especially at the times when it is hardest to do. And God will comfort you and will bring you into the land of the living. Amen.